Everybody, it's Briggsell here, and today I'm going to talk about The Hobbit, Desolation of Smaug. Now, I've literally just seen it about 10 minutes ago. I've just finished watching it, and I thought I'd give this kind of completely first look, or first talk, as it were, about my feelings towards this film. Now, before I go on, I just want to warn people there are spoilers in what I'm going to say. So if you haven't seen it yet, or if you don't want to know anything about it, then obviously stop watching, listening now. If you do want to carry on, I will just also put this. These are my own views. No one else has in kind of put their foot in. It's purely my views, no one else. So please take them as such. And the final thing is, I have been completely spoilt by actually reading The Hobbit as a book, and so everything that I'm going to say now is a bit more of a rant rather than a celebration of the film that has just come out in the cinema. So, let's begin, shall we? There is almost no resemblance from this film number 2, Desolation of Smaug, to the book. That's the big point, okay? You've got events that kind of don't even take place at all, that are completely fictional. I say fictional, I mean the whole thing is fictional technically, but if you go by what Tolkien wrote, then nothing in this film actually happened. There are made-up characters come out of nowhere. There's inclusion of things that should not be in there. This is all if you literally take the book as the word, as the guideline. I understand that people need to take artistic license with these things. Look at Lord of the Rings, for instance. Lord of the Rings followed the books pretty good. In fact, the more I have watched The Hobbit, the last one and this one, the more I realised that the Lord of the Rings actually followed the book pretty close compared to what this has been doing, what The Hobbit has been doing to the book. This book's got Legolas in it. The book hasn't got Legolas in it at all. The film's got Legolas in it. Why? It's got a made-up character called Tauriel, which is pathetic. The dwarves split up. About 4 of the dwarves decide that they want to stay in Lake Town. No. When did this happen? Those said elves, Legolas and Tauriel, decide that they want to go to Lake Town too to stop some fucking orcs that have decided to come down from the mountains. Didn't happen. There's some fucking weird love thing going on between Killy and this Tauriel lady. May I just say, a dwarf and an elf? Hello? What the fuck is that all about? I mean, I'm as you can probably tell from my voice, my annoyance, I am incredibly annoyed about this. And the reason why I'm not putting on this on camera is because I'd rather let my voice do the talking rather than my actions, because I am seriously annoyed. I'm so seriously annoyed I couldn't prepare the camera in time. I just needed to get all this out. And this is only the tip of the iceberg. I found myself literally talking to myself through half of the film, saying how pathetic things were, and I'm almost certain that the people around me sitting in the cinema were just getting really annoyed with me, because I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, that never happened. This never happened. That never happened in the book. That didn't happen in the book. That doesn't even exist in the book. Didn't happen that way. I mean, at the start of the film, right, they've just been planted down by the eagles, of course, as you do. And there's a bit of spiel about Gandalf meeting Thorin in Bree a year before this all happened. I don't even know if that's true or not. It wasn't in the fucking book, I'll tell you that much. Okay? And then they go back to the people, and Bilbo's having a look and seeing what the orcs are doing, and the orcs are supposedly chasing them. Let me just say that they're supposedly chasing them. And then they see Bjorn, the bear changeling fella, and that whole bit in the book where Bjorn really doesn't particularly like company, and so Gandalf decides to bring the dwarves in one by one or two by two to make the hit on Bjorn less. That's completely out. There's none of that in the book. Absolutely none of it. Which annoyed me, because that's one of my favourite parts of the whole book, is that Bjorn bit where he's talking to the animals and all this sort of stuff. I mean, what the fuck? Really, what the fuck? And then you've got the bit with the elves, and you got the bit with the escape in the bloody barrels. None of that sequence is at all in line with the book at all. The only bit that's actually relevant is the fact that the elves are getting drunk just before the dwarves escape, and that's actually in the book, which I thought was quite a nice touch. But then they go and fucking ruin it. The elves didn't know that the dwarves had escaped until much later, like hours and hours later, and yet they're immediately being chased. And then there's all these fucking orcs come out of nowhere. I mean, it's just pathetic. I couldn't stop myself from saying in the cinema how pathetic it was. I really did. I was just sitting there and I was seething pretty much through the rest of the film at this point, because I'm just looking at it and thinking, this is not what I read in The Hobbit. It's not what I even thought about. You know, when you imagine what you're reading and you see it in your mind's eye about what things look like. None of it was anything like what I thought it would be. I'm really, really unhappy with the way the story's gone. Now, if you just kind of move past the story and look at it at an actual film point of view, there's nothing wrong with it. In fact, some of the sequences, especially the barrel run sequences, are really, really good. They look really good. Cinematically, they're fantastic. So, on a film front, if you haven't even read the books, right, and you just go into it thinking, this looks pretty good, let's watch this, shall we? You'll probably really like it. I'm serious, you probably quite like it. But if you've read the book, or you know anything about The Hobbit in general, then you'll start to feel this really I start to feel a really dislike for what they've done to it. I feel almost emotional about it. That's how I feel about it. And yeah, people are going to say, oh, it's just a fucking book, oh, it's just a film and shit. Well, some of these things people have grown up with all their lives. Had The Hobbit, or Lord of the Rings, or Silmarillion, or Harry Potter, for instance. People weren't very happy with some of the Harry Potter shit, especially... I'm going off topic completely here, but there were some scenes in the last Harry Potter thing that people were outraged about. I mean, don't get me wrong, folks. I really like the universe of Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and all that. I really do. I find it fascinating, and there were some really good bits in this film. The bits where Gandalf's in Dol Guldur, or wherever it is, and he's facing the necromancer, and he's doing all this white bashy stuff on the ground and stuff, and Sauron's having a good old session on him, and then it shows how basically the eye is formed and all this sort of stuff. That is an incredible bit of cinematography and an incredible bit of imagination and creation on the part of whoever wrote the script, David Jackson or whatever his fucking name is. And I think that bit's really good. I mean, none of it happened in the book, of course, but I don't mind artistic license if you get it right. Seriously. If I was to write a script, or if I was to write a storyline to make it more cinematic, so many of the routes that were taken were completely wrong. They just didn't. They didn't feel the way the book felt. You know, you stick with the lines, you stick with the guidelines, and you make little touches and changes here, but you don't fuck with the system. Okay, you don't fuck with that system, especially something so fucking popular. Because all you're going to get are people like me come out the fucking woodwork and talk about how bad things have been done, or how bad things have been created for. Really, really annoyed about it. And technically, the story really doesn't go anywhere. Okay, you find out about a couple more people. You find out about Toriel. You find out about Legolas, if you didn't know who Legolas was, which you do because you've watched. Most people have watched Lord of the Rings. In fact, 90% of the people who watch The Hobbit have watched Lord of the Rings, so they've already kind of seen this Legolas character and seen the shit he gets up to, the unrealistic shit that he gets up to. Even though I say unrealistic and I'm talking about an elf in a fictional world, hey, what are you gonna do? You meet the characters in Lake Town, Bard for instance, and all that sort of stuff, and deep down those characters actually are quite well represented in the book and the film. They're actually quite similar. I'm not too sure about how it was all set up, of course, and the license that Jackson has taken, in the sense of changing some of the... Like, I never knew Bard had 3 children, two girls and a boy. I didn't know that. I mean, where was that written down? I don't remember reading anything about Bard having children. I didn't know that the Master of Lake Town had an assistant who was an absolute twat in the film, which he is in the film. He's basically like what was his fucking name? Wormtail, was it? Wormtongue in Lord of the Rings. He was a real character in the book, but was this assistant in the book? In the Hobbit? I don't know. I can't recall any kind of assistant that was like that. Things just didn't sit well with me in this film, and I was really disappointed in how kind of shitty it made me feel. Because I read the book cover to cover 10s, 20, probably, I don't know, in my entire life, maybe 30 times, maybe 40. Okay? That may not seem like a lot. I've only been alive for 28 years. And I didn't read it until I was 15, 14, I think, when I first read The Hobbit. Which means that I've only really been reading it for 14 years, okay? Only 14 years. And I have no recollection of half of the stuff that seems to have found its way into a film. Okay? I really don't. And then let's get on to the final kind of I don't know what to call it. It's farcical. I mean, everything about the travelling from Lake Town to Erebor, the Lonely Mountain, to the talking with the dragon, that seemed quite close to The Hobbit. That was okay. That's not too bad. What was bad is what followed. They decided to have a big fucking fight. When the fuck did this happen? When do we have a massive gold fight in the fucking book? I don't remember that. All I remember is Smaug and fucking Bilbo have a little chat, a little riddling chat, talking to, Bilbo's talking to the dragon about how magnificent he is and not getting big up and all that. And Bilbo escapes back into the tunnel that they've just opened up, and Smaug goes and fucking blows the shit out of Lake Town. Yet that section between the point of Bilbo talking to the dragon and the desolation that the Smaug would bring to Lake Town, which is the last point in the film, I might add. You don't actually see it happen, but he's about to, literally about, I don't know how far away he is, but he's about to do it. That's the whole ending. That's the whole cliffhanger ending. In the book, there's about 20 seconds, 20 lines or something between that point and what Smaug goes off and does. Okay. And the dwarves then come down after a day or so of not hearing anything from Smaug, and they presume that he's gone off and done something else, or he's dead, or whatever, and they go and do whatever they need to in the bloody mountain. Yet between there and between the talking with Bilbo and the Smaug goes off and has a bit of a fight with Lake Town, in the film there's a whole fucking scene where the dwarves decide that they want to come down and fuck with the dragon as well. Where they got the fucking courage from in the first place, where they couldn't do that in the first place, I have no fucking idea whatsoever. And they come down and have a little fucking tussle with this dragon, and some fucking forge thing happens, and a smeltery thing happens, and all this fucking gold comes out of nowhere, and I'm thinking, no one's lived in this fucking place for like 50 years. Or something, not longer than that, 100 years, I don't know fucking how long it was. And probably, if I'd read the book a bit more closely, maybe I might have known that, but I don't remember hearing anything about the length of time it's been. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is the fact that this whole scene is completely made up, completely out of the fucking air, and it's awful. It's seriously awful, because this film could have been 40 minutes shorter. It could have been about 2 hours if they've cut out all these extra little bits that they've put in to fill out the story. You don't need to fill out the story. Did Tolkien think that, this book's too short, I need to fill out some fucking gaps here? What about the king of the elves? Maybe he's got some weird shit going on or something. I don't know, maybe he's got a son that just like happens to be Legolas, that's in Lord of the Rings, that I'll write in 10 years' time. Oh yeah, there's going to be this other character as well, who's kind of like Legolas's like crush or something, and then this woman elf woman somehow then falls in love with a fucking dwarf. Who the fuck comes up with that sort of shit, man? The elves and the dwarves didn't get on. They don't get on until Legolas and Gimli come back together and they have a nice little fucking powwow and a chum and all that sort of shit. There's nothing else in that fucking thing that describes anything. And this is going to be the last swipe at this. I've had enough talking about it already. While the elves are removing all the possessions from the dwarves as they're about to be locked up, one of the elves, I think it's Legolas in fact, picks up, in fact it is Legolas, because it directly, it's like a little nod to Lord of the Rings here, picks up some form of like little, what's the word? Picture case from one of the dwarves, and it has a picture of a dwarf woman and a dwarf's boy, and it turns out that is the boy is Gimli, Gloin's son, okay, and his wife. And Legolas goes, "Who's that ugly dwarf, ugly goblin?" And Gloin goes, "Oh, that's my son Gimli." And I swear to you, I'm not making this up at all, the camera pans to Legolas and he does a fucking almost a double take. I am swear down on Jesus, the Lord Saviour of Jesusness, even though I don't believe in that shit, he does a fucking double take, as if to say, "Hey there, Lord of the Rings fans, you didn't get enough of me before, here we go again, we're going to reference something else that was only written 10 years after the writing of this fucking thing. Oh, by the way, yeah, we fucking suck dick." I mean, seriously, Legolas's character in the book, in Lord of the Rings, was actually a really good character, and it's actually the only character in Lord of the Rings, the films, that I really disliked because of the way that what's his Jackson? I can't remember his first name. Jackson portrayed Legolas a bit differently and made him just like a robot, basically, which is something really pretentious and annoying about that. And in this one, he looks older for a fact. Legolas looks older in The Hobbit, even though he's 50 years younger, and he's an elf, so he shouldn't look old, but he does. He's still the pretentious idiot that he was before, but he knows it now. He's got that air about Legolas that he knows he's special and he's got to be there, because if he's not there, it's not a Peter Jackson, that's it. It's not a Peter Jackson film about the Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit, you know? It's like the first one with fucking Bilbo, actual Bilbo, you know, what's his face? Ian Holm, and then you got Frodo in it as well, which I can't remember the fucking name. Elijah Wood, there we go. Actually having some form of cameos in it as well. I mean, it's with, you might as well just brought Samwise Gamgee out and them sitting in front of a fire having a little telltale, you know, a little story time or something, with Bilbo sitting there reading from the fucking big red book, you know. Anyway, the first film, right? I'm going to compare the two now. The first film of The Hobbit, I didn't like it for this for the reasons I stated in the last video I did a couple of months back. Those reasons are the exact same reasons why I really dislike this one as well. As a Tolkien fan, when I read something about Tolkien, or I read one of his stories, one of his books, there is a sense of timelessness about it. There's a sense of that this thing is huge, okay? It may not be real, it doesn't matter that it's not real, but it feels huge on my soul, on my belief as a human being. It's something that's just massive, okay? I can't really explain it any more than the way I've just done it. And what this film has done is it's taken The Hobbit as a book and it said, Tolkien, you were fucking wrong. This is how you do The Hobbit. Okay? And I'm thinking to myself, no. Absolutely not. The Hobbit was written by one man, okay, years ago. The book itself makes a lot of sense, and the order that it's written in the sense that the order that you read it in, makes sense as well. Lord of the Rings was a different matter. Forget about Lord of the Rings. This is The Hobbit. This is the first one. Okay, this is the thing that made Lord of the Rings happen. If you read it as a book, if you think to yourselves the path that Bilbo takes, it is almost, you could stick that in a fucking film, just carbon copy it into a fucking film and it'll work. Okay? Fuck everything else. Don't even fill in the little blanks. Okay? Don't even do it. Just leave it be. Okay? And you look at the end result and you still got a coherent story that will probably last at least 2 films, if not 3. Okay? I've had enough of that. I'm not sure if I want to even see the third one. I may see it only for the sake that it ends what I've just gone through. Anyway, that's it. No more. Let me know in the comments below how you feel. If you've seen it, if you haven't seen it, I apologise for spoiling it. See you next time.